We have as our witness today Colonel Wesley Martin, who is returning for his second visit to our committee.
Mr. Chairman, members of Parliament, I greatly appreciate the honor to once again testify before you on the situation of Camp Ashraf. To be part of the solution and show good faith in the UN refugee determination process, MEK leadership agreed to the transfer from Camp Ashraf to Camp Haria, formerly known as Camp Liberty. Camp Haria is located immediately to the east of Baghdad International Airport. The reason stated by the Iraqi government for the transfer was to ease the UN vetting process. This location has come with numerous problems. Continually, the call is rendered by the United Nations and U.S. State Department that this relocation requires cooperation of all parties concerned. Unfortunately, the party always conceding has been the MEK. The Iraqi government has created one difficulty after another. It should not be forgotten it was the Iraqi government that prevented the UN from traveling to and conducting the process at Camp Ashraf. Furthermore, the officer in charge of this transfer mission is the same person who commanded the 2009-2011 Iraqi military attacks on Camp Ashraf. Camp Haria, less than 1/2 square mile in size, is correctly referred to by Rudy Giuliani as a concentration camp. Before the arrival of the first bus from Ashraf, Camp Haria had already been looted by the Iraqi military. Cabins that could have been used for storage were intentionally damaged. The black water storage tank ruptured the first day due to lack of maintenance. The water treatment plant built in 2006 by U.S. forces had been stripped by the Iraqis. Now the MEK must pay for water to be shipped in. The quality of water has never met the needs of the growing population. Often part of the problem has been UN Ambassador Kobler himself. He has proven himself to be very quick to accept Maliki's words on most everything. The Iraqi government has not honored the formal agreements for what may be brought forward to Haria. This includes generators for power, vehicles for transporting disabled people, medical equipment and supplies, and personal items. The denial of supplies and equipment will make life that much more difficult for the residents. The very searches of the convoy and the people prior to departure have been exercises in harassment and brutality. What has been searched gets searched again and again. That process lasts for a day and a half without rest. It was from this process that a 48-year-old engineer, Badia Mustafian, died from a stroke. In another incident, the Iraqi military commenced beating Ashraf residents to include with batons, resulting in 29 MEK members injured. There have been meetings between the Iraqi military and the MEK. The meetings have addressed all the problems mentioned here, and in each case, the Iraqi military response is either a pledge to look into the issue or a flat-out refusal for correction. In April, State Department Ambassador Benjamin stated before Congress the foreign terrorist determination is dependent upon seeing what weaponry the MEK still has at Ashraf. He claimed to Congressman Poe that the U.S. has not had a chance to see what was at Ashraf. To this, General Phillips, Lieutenant Colonel McCloskey, and I wrote an editorial that every one of us conducted multiple inspections. And of note, I have all the photographs of the real estate that Ambassador Benjamin said we never had access to. I took those photographs myself. While it might have been an expedient opportunity for him to escape further questioning from Congressman Poe, to make such a statement was information at best. On May 8th, in presenting his oral argument to the U.S. Court of Appeals, State Department Representative Robert Lowe continually repeated this claim of Ashraf having never been searched. He even validated this claim by presenting Ambassador Benjamin's testimony to Congress as being the source of accurate information. Not only was Camp Ashraf searched multiple times by U.S. forces, but also by Iraqi forces in 2009 with the use of canine. All the results were the same. No weapons were found at Ashraf. In his presentation to the Court of Appeals, Robert Loeb stated that the Secretary needed to receive the results of the search after all Ashraf residents have departed. What will happen after all the Ashraf residents have departed is we will see throwdown weapons of a mass group put at Camp Ashraf. Meanwhile, the State Department continues to ignore the congressional standards on what constitutes a foreign terrorist organization, but the legislative branch is not alone. In July of 2010, the judicial branch ruled against the State Department, The result was a mandate that within 6 months due process of the FTO will be implemented. That was over 22 months ago. 22 months. The United States spent less time in World War I than it's taken the State Department to make that one decision. Yet, State Department continues to stumble along, offering appeasements in exchange for dialogue that always goes nowhere. I fail to understand this real logic. Iran has developed a nuclear weapons capability, planned to kill the Saudi ambassador on American soil, is the primary supporter of brutal Syrian government, kidnapped American hikers for $500,000 each, sentenced a Canadian citizen to death for alleged spying, sentenced 12 Iranian Christians to death on Easter Sunday, and the list goes on. It's time to stop appeasing the fundamentalist government of Iran and start supporting humanity. Concerning Ashraf, in achieving that goal, the best things Canada and the United States can do is to remove the MEK from the terrorist list. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you and look forward to your questions.
The first question is going to be directly from your testimony. And because I wasn't there at the meeting, you mentioned about some testimony that was given by Ambassador Benjamin at a committee I would think that would be similar to this one. And he was trying to justify a determination by the United States government by saying that they were not able to inspect Camp Ashraf. Now, that actually mystifies me. How is it possible that those people who are on the panel would actually accept that as an answer, knowing that Ashraf was always laid bare for not only U.S. troops, but also Iraqi troops as well?
Congressman Poe was being very kind to him. And Congressman Poe is a very great man, not only in Congress, but he's a former judge. But he let the conversation move on. But I don't believe Congressman Poe believed it. When it came up in the courtroom, General Phillips and I were sitting beside each other. And we couldn't believe what we were now hearing the lawyer present to the Court of Appeals, that that camp had never been searched. As I mentioned, over the course of the 6 years that the Americans had it, General Phillips put people on every meter of the ground and walked them. And also he raided and inspected numerous buildings, as did I, as did Lieutenant Colonel Leo McCloskey. It was a continual process.
When you were last here, you made a prediction. You suggested that the Iraqi government would take steps immediately after meeting with the president. Wasn't that the situation?
Yes, sir.
Making it look like there was a staged deal or an agreement that had occurred to justify their violence. That didn't quite happen. But what did happen was, what I found a little bit surprising, the extension of the deadline to some degree. And I'm wondering, what do you think is going to happen now with this looming deadline, the fact that there's still, 1,000, 1,200 people to be transferred, and the UNHCR has not been very successful in getting people out of the country. Right. What do you see unfolding in the next little while?
First, on the reason of that deadline had slipped was because of the international pressure. Maliki was going to do it, but as mentioned, the North American, Western European governments came down so hard, he couldn't. I see now the UN is going to move very slowly. We got to get the people out of there because they're under hideous conditions as it is.
My question is, after all this time has passed, with already a court decision, with congressional testimony, why is it that the administration still is not moving on this issue?
My feeling is that from the very get-go, the listing of the MEK was not related to something that happened 20 years earlier in Iran. It was Madeleine Albright deciding that if she appeases the Iranian government, the appearance of a moderate Iranian government, they will make concessions and work. Well, the Western governments have always given in to Iran. And right now, our State Department is afraid that we're going to interfere with the nuclear talks if we delist the MEK. It's always something else. They're listed for the wrong reason.
I want to ask you about the RAND Corporation and Human Rights Watch. They've had, some testimonials regarding grave human rights abuses that happened in Camp Ashraf. Can you speak to that issue as well?
I can. And this is the RAND report I was referencing earlier. And all these yellow tabs that we see on this is where I found discrepancies in what the RAND report was saying. The RAND report did not, when they were developing this report, they did not talk to General Jeffrey Miller. They did not talk to Bill Brandenburg. They did not talk to Lieutenant General Jack Gardner or Brigadier General Dave Phillips, myself, Julie Norman, and the list goes on who they did not talk to. They talked to a very limited amount of people, and as mentioned, they use a lot of cyclic information. It's like when I was there one day, I get a report from the State Department. They have a secret training camp going on here. They're training Iraqis. I mounted up the Marines, and I said, we're going into that camp. And then with a Marine lieutenant and we went in with the rest of the Marines mounted up, machine guns ready to fire. And the Marine lieutenant and I went forward, and we found out it was where Iraqi workers were able to sleep at night to avoid being cut by Mahdi Army or Badakor and being executed. But all these rumors I would dispel. The State Department would not take those rumors off their record, but rather they would maintain them. Even the killing of the Kurds. I gave State Department Jay Zimmerman and Tim Epstein in Washington, D.C., the letter from the foreign minister. They validated it with him. And it came out, he said, yes, I wrote that letter. They did not attack the Kurds. And yet the State Department still sees it. It's still in this RAND report.
Is this the same thing with the Human Rights Watch?
I'm sure they did it for the Human Rights Watch, yes. 2009?
Yeah, I don't have a date in my notes here right now. I'm just talking, yeah. One of the things that I'll let you just freely elucidate on is that's really troublesome in your testimony is regarding this growing relationship between al-Maliki and Iran. We've done an in-depth study. In fact, the members around here quoted from that study last night when we had a take-note debate in the chamber regarding human rights in Iran. And you seem to indicate in your testimony that the State Department or the White House really is not cognizant of this or consciously ignores it, but hasn't taken any action in that regard, even though the President of the United States has spoken very strongly that he's ready to take action and he's keeping all of his options open in regards to Iran. Can you give us, I know you're also politically savvy, can you give us some indication of why this is going on?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's got to be more than just the history of
this. If we don't pay attention to Iraq and how it's deteriorating, then come November, it will not be an issue. Iraq is deteriorating very, very seriously.
Thank you very much, Colonel.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate all members being here, and we are adjourned.